As we have discussed Silappadigaram, we will go to another monumental work in terms of values, ethics and the very literary value this particular work holds. It is a very popular, globally accepted, venerated and largely translated work called as Tirukkural. So, Kural in Tamil means two things. One means a dwarf, a person who is short in height is called Kural. So, the Lord appeared as Kural, as Vamana to Aditi and Kashyapa and later went to the Yagavatika of Bali Chakravarti. So, a dwarf is referred to as Kural. The other meaning for Kural is a couplet. So, like how we say Doha in Hindi, a haiku in the Japanese language, a sonnet in English, there is a meter in Tamil called as Kural Nadai, that is a meter. So, the first line of this Kural Nadai will have 4 words, whereas the next line, second line will have 3 words, it is called Kural Nadai. So, using this particular meter called Kural, he composed 1330 couplets, Kurals. So, this compendium itself is called Tirukkural. So, the person who composed Tirukkural was a great saint. He was a saint poet. His name was Tiruvalluvar. So, Tiruvalluvar is said to have born and lived in a suburb, important area of Chennai. Today it is in the heart of the city Chennai, it is called Mylapore. So, Tiruvalluvar is said to have lived there with his wife. Her name is denoted in many sources, books as Vasuki. So, to bring forth a transformation in the minds of the people to further civilize the society, he gave this work called as Tirukkural. So, this Tirukkural is divided into 3 parts. In Sanatana Dharma, we believe there are 4 Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksham. 4 destinations or 4 fruits that one can realize in his or her life. Dharma, righteousness, Artha, wealth, Kama, love, Moksham, which is Moksham, salvation is what the Westerners would say, it is Moksham. So, here out of the 4, Moksham is not taken for consideration, because in certain couplets he says if you live this way you will surely attain the Lord's feet, which in itself is moksham. He discusses 3 aspects, 3 purusharthas: dharma, artha, kamam. Dharmam is aram, artham is porul, and kamam is kamam. So, inbam is what we call. So, arathuppa, inbappa and porutpa. So, he has distributed it that way. In Aram, there are 380 verses. So, when I say 380 verses, it means there will be 38 chapters. Similarly, when we look at Porul, which discusses wealth, Artham, there are 700 verses, which means there will be 70 chapters. Each chapter will have 10 couplets. Then Inbam, which is Kamatippa, which is Kamam, there we have 25 chapters, which is 250 verses. Put together 133 chapters, 1330 couplets. Let us now understand a few couplets. 1330, if I have to explain every couplet in detail with an example, it will take a lot of time. Let us consider a few couplets now. The first one, the first couplet of the entire Tirukkural. Agara mudala எழுத்தெல்லாம் ஆதி பகவன் முதற்றே உலகு. Agara mudala எழுத்து. எழுத்து in Tamil means a letter. So, many letters constitute the alphabet of a certain language. 26 letters constitute the English alphabet. So, there will be many letters. Now, for this Tamil language, it is there for all languages. Now, since he is dealing with Tamil, in the Tamil language, the first aksharam is A. Incidentally, in English also it is A, and in Sanskritam also it is A. So, you can construe for any language, but now dealing with the Tamil language, Tiruvalluvar says, Agara mudala எழுத்தெல்லாம். From the letter A onwards, whatever letter comes with the associated sound, for the entire list of letters in that particular Tamil alphabet, Akaram is the first. A is the place where it begins. Agara mudala eluttellam. So A is the first letter of the Tamil alphabet. Like how Adi Bhagavan Mudatre Ulagu. For this particular universe that you see, world that you see, Adi Bhagavan. So Adi Bhagavan, he has incidentally used two Sanskritam words. Adi means first. Bhagavan means the one who is endowed with 6 qualities. While discussing Vedās, I mentioned about Jnana Bala, Aishwarya Virya, Shakti Tejas. So Jnana Bala Bha, Aishwarya Virya Ga, Shakti Tejas Va. Bhagavan, the one who has got all good qualities in him, the one who has got no bad qualities in him. Who is he? Adi Bhagavan Mudatre Ulagu. Whoever is the first Lord, Sriman Narayana, he must have created this entire universe. Like how Akaram is the first letter in the Tamil alphabet. Agara mudala eluttellam Adi Bhagavan Mudatre Ulagu. Then in another Kural, he describes about the concept of Sharanagati. Piravi Perunkadal Neenduvar Neendar Iraivanadi Seradar. Piravi Perunkadal, this worldly cycle of birth, death, living, it is a cyclic process. I am born now, I am living, I will die, again I will be born elsewhere. Again I have to live, again I have to die. So it's a cyclic process. So if one wants to exit this cyclic process and reach the feet of the Lord and reach the abode of the Lord from which there is no return, nasapunaravartate, then what is to be done? You have to perform Nyasa Vidya, which is Prapatti, Bharanyasam or Sharanagati. For that you will have to seek asylum at the Lord's feet. So, Piravi Perunkadal, whatever we see around us, whatever our life's existence is, it is actually an ocean. You can never know which is the other side. It is that deep, that it is that vast. Piravi Perunkadal, Neenduvar, those people who will be able to cross this ocean of Samsara Sagaram are those people who have fallen and sought asylum at the feet of the Lord. Those who cannot, or those who have not sought asylum at the feet of the Lord, will not be able to cross this cyclic process of birth and death. Piravi Perunkadal Neenduvar Neendar Iraivanadi Seradar. This is the Kural that describes about the concept, the upayam of Sharanagati. Next, there is another Kural. Iniya Ulavaga Innada Kural Kani Iripakkai Kavarandatu. Iniya Ulavaga. When there are such beautiful words having such deep meaning, very soft in nature, and that will please others. There are so many words in every language, be it the English language, Tamil language, Kannada, Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, Nepali and so on. There will be such beautiful words. But if one chooses to speak only harsh words, very foul words, very abusive words, then isn't it like a person who has got two options? There is on one side the kacha mango, very, very bitter and sour. It is a mix of all tastes, not pleasing at all. And on the other side is the same mango that has transformed into a very, very sweet mango. So here is the unripened mango, ripened mango. This is absolutely, you can't even describe that taste. It is so bitter, sour, you can't even describe that taste. On the other side is the same mango which is ripened and it is absolutely sweet. So if a person has these options both at the same time and he chooses to have only the unripened mango with a very, very bitter or a sour taste, isn't it very similar to a person who chooses to use foul, abusive, unparliamentary words when there are such nice, cool and parliamentary and very polite and charming words? So both of this are akin. If one chooses to follow the good words, it means like the ripened mango. If person chooses to use abusive words, it is like the unripened mango. So he says, Iniya ulavaga innada kural kani iruppa. When the fruit is there, kai kavarandatu, the person is choosing to have the unripened form of it, which is very sour and bitter, says Tiruvalluvar in this Kural. Let us go to another Kural. Tottanaithu oorum manar keni mandarku kattanaithu oorum arivu. So in those days, when they didn't have water tanks, there will be either water source was either through a river or a pond close by, or if you are nowhere close to a river or a pond, you will have a well at your backyard. So Tiruvalluvar says, if I want good amount of water, sufficient amount of water, in those days there will be joint families, 10, 12 members or even 15 members, all of them have to bathe, or food has to be cooked for all of them will use the washroom, so they will need lot of water. So for that they will dig a well in their backyard. So how much of water will I get, asks Tiruvalluvar. He says, the deeper you dig, the deeper you excavate and create that well, the more water you will get. So as I dig deeper, I will get more water. Similarly, a person who wants to acquire quintessential spiritual knowledge should dwell deep and deep and deep. He should be listening to many people. He should be reading a lot of books. He should research by himself. He should internalize. The more you go deeper and deeper, you will get more wealth of information. Like a person who wishes to have water and starts digging for a well, the deeper he digs, the more waters he will get. So, Tottanaithu Oorum Manarkeni Mandarku Kattanaithu Oorum Arivu, says Tiruvalluvar. Let us go to another Kural. This does not come under the category of ethics or moral values. This has to do with Kamam, which is Inbam, which is love. Here, he describes the hip of a beautiful lady. So, for this he tells a story. It seems a lady who was barely 15-16 years of age, in her mid-teens, very youthful, very beautiful. She along with her friend went to a Nandavanam, a Vatika, a garden. As they went to the garden, there was a beautiful flower which had blossomed, very good fragrance, very beautiful colors. It was called Anichappu. So while plucking the flower so that she can place it on her head, the girl, instead of taking the flower portion alone, she had plucked it with the long stalk that the flower had. And as she placed on her headlocks and she walked, she died, it seems. Tiruvalluvar asks why. To which he says, I found out the answer, because this flower was plucked along with that stalk. So unable to bear the weight of the stalk of the flower, this lady's hip broke and she died, it seems. To indicate that the hip should be so thin for the woman. Please note it also for the man. It should be so thin that even the weight of the stalk of a flower should be unbearable to the hip. So today if you keep even a boulder on my head, nothing will happen to me because my hip is so broad. But for the man or the woman, it should be so thin. So he tells, Anichappu Kal Kalayal Peidal Nuchu Piragu Nalla Parai Pada Nunchu Piragu Nalla Parai Pada. So at that point in time, he tells that the stalk of the flower was so heavy that she passed away. So these are the ways that he comes up with Kural. Kural is extremely beautiful, especially those that deal with values, human ethics, societal values is very, very relevant even today, though it was written roughly 1500 to 1800 years back. It is still relevant. So we have discussed two important forms of literature which have to do with Silappadigaram and Tirukkural. Now we are going to go to another beautiful compendium called Nalayira Divya Prabandham. Nalayira Divya Prabandham essentially deals with the 4000 pasurams composed by a group of 12 mystic saints and a devotee called Amudanar, Tiruvaranga Amudanar. This Amudanar, Tiruvarangat Amudanar and 12 Alvars together have composed, and this has been compiled by Nathamunigal, and this is referred to as Nalayira Divya Prabandham. Prabandham is a work. Divya means people who have given this. They were like great Nitya Suris and Divya Suris. They were great saints. Divya Prabandham, very divine in nature, who have given this Alvars. How many numbers are there? Nal Ayiram. Nal means 4. Ayiram means 1000. Nal Ayiram means 4000 verses have been compiled together. It is said by historians that the Alvars, the mystic saints who lived and gave this work, must have lived between the 5th and the 8th century AD. Nevertheless, the Guru Parampara says that the first 4 Alvars belong towards the end of Dwapara Yugam and the remaining Alvars come in the Kali Yugam. Whichever way it is, this work is very ancient, this compendium is very ancient. Who are the saints. Bhutam Sarascha Mahadahvaya Bhattanath Sri Bhakti Sāra Kulashekara Yogivahan Bhaktangri Renu Parakala Yatindra Mishran Srimat Parankusha Munim Pranatosmi Nityam. It talks about the names of 12 saints. Let us understand who are the first three. They are called Mudal Alvargal, Poigai Alvar, Bhudatta Alvar, Pei Alvar. They gave us works called as Mudal Tiruvandadi, Irandam Tiruvandadi, Moondram Tiruvandadi. Tiruvandadi, Tiru means Mahalakshmi. She has graced that work. Andadi, Antam, Adi. Like how we play Antakshari these days. The last letter will be the first letter of the next song. Similarly, they gave a work called Andadi. So the last word of that verse will be the beginning word of the next verse. So Andadi, Mudal Tiruvandadi, 100 verses. Irandam Tiruvandadi, 100 verses. Moondram Tiruvandadi, 100 verses. Given by Poigai Alvar, Bhudatta Alvar, Pei Alvar. 3 mystic saints gave 3 works. Next comes Tirumangai Alvar. He was an Alvar who belonged to the Shudra clan. Immensely intellectual, and he is said to be a Siddha Purusha as well. He gave us 2 Prabandhams, Nanmugan Tiruvandadi and the second is Tiruchanda Viruttam. He was one of the first Alvars who introduced a very rhythmic pattern to saying verses. Konda konda kodai meedu thenu laavu kuni kun kunda konda ranga votti ulmagilnda nadanur. It will be in a certain meter which is very suitable for singing. It is called Tiruchanda Viruttam, Viruttappa. So after Tirumangai Alvar came the very towering Nammalvar. Nammalvar is the one who is said to have brought the quintessence of the Rig, Yajuhu, Sama, Atharvanam, 4 Vedas in 4 different works of his called as Thiruviruttam, Thiruvasiriyam, Periya Tiruvandadi, Thiruvaimozhi. So Rigveda, Yajurveda, Atharvana Veda, Samaveda, because Thiruvaimozhi is hailed as the best literary work. It is called Dravida Veda. So it comprises of 1000+ verses. Parashara Bhatta says, Rishim Jushamahe Krishna Trishna Tattvamivothitam Sahasra Shakham Yodrakshim Dravidim Brahma Samhitam. The 1000 verses are akin to the 1000 shakhas of Samaveda, says Parashara Bhatta. So much of value has gone into Thiruvaimozhi. So after Thiruvaimozhi, that is Nammalvar's work, comes Nammalvar's Sishya called Madhura Kavi Alvar, who gave a work not on the Lord but on his Guru Nammalvar. It is called Kanninun Siruttambu. Then after Swami Madhura Kavi Alvar comes Kulashekara Alvar. Kulashekara Alvar gave us a work, and that work is referred to as Perumal Tirumozhi. And that Perumal Tirumozhi, he was a Chera king from the Kerala region. Then after Kulashekara Alvar comes the father-daughter duo called as Periyalvar or Vishnu Chitta, his daughter Andal. So Periyalvar gave us a work called as Periyalvar Tirumozhi, and second Andal gave us 2 works which is called as Tiruppavai and Nachiyar Tirumozhi. Nachiyar Tirumozhi has 143 verses, whereas Tiruppavai, the very popular Prabandham, has 30 verses. Now you will listen and watch Tiruppavai, that Prabandham of Andal's first verse called Margazhi Tingal Madinirainda Nannalal Neerada Poduveer Podumino Neridayir Sheermalgum Aipadi Chelva Chirumeerkal Kurvel Koduntholilan Nantakopan Kumaran Yerarnda Kanni Yashodai Ilam Shingam Karmeni Shenkan Kadirmadiyam Polmugattan Narayanane Namakke Paraitharuvan Paror Pugala Padindelor Embabai, where Andal requests Krishna, who has got eyes like that of his mother Yashoda, who has got a father like Nandagopa, who is sharpening the spears so that he can kill the enemies of Krishna. To that Krishna, Andal performs a vratam. She is in a vow, and that vow suggests that she has to marry Krishna. So that is Margazhi Tingal. You will now listen to that verse sung and depicted through dance.
திங்கள் மதி நிறைந்த நன்னாட மார்கழி திங்கள் மதி நிறைந்த நன்னாட நீராட போதுயிர் போதுமின் நேரிழையீர் நீராட போதுயிர் போதுமின் நேரிழையீர் சீர்மல்கும் ஆய் பாடி செல்வ சிறுமியராள் சீர்மல்கும் ஆய் பாடி செல்வ சிறுமியராள் கூர்வேல் கொடுதோழின நந்தகோபம் குமரன் கூர்வேல் கொடுதோழின நந்தகோபம் குமரன் ஏராத யசோதை இடம் சிங்கம் ஏராத கண்ணி யசோதை இடம் சிங்கம் கார்மேனி செங்கண் கதிர்மதியம் ஓஹதான் கார்மேனி செங்கண் கதிர்மதியம் ஓஹதான் நாராயணனே நமக்கே பறை தருவான் நாராயணனே நமக்கே பறை தருவான் ஆரோர் புகழ படிந்தேலோர் எம்பாவாய் ஆரோர் புகழ படிந்தேலோர்
As we have listened and watched this beautiful dance performed by the very revered Vidushi, going further from Andal and her father, we need to understand the remaining Alvars. Here comes another important Alvar called Thondaradi Podi Alvar. He gave us two works called as Tiruppalli Ezhuchi. This was one of the earliest Suprabhatams, like how in Srimad Rāmāyanam, Vishwamitra wakes up Rama. Kausalya Supraja Rama Purva Sandhya Pravartate Uttishta Narashardula Kartavyam Daivamanhikam, he says. Similarly, here Tiruppalli Ezhuchi is a Prabandham where Thondaradi Podi Alvar tries to wake up the Lord of Srirangam by singing these early morning verses. Next is Tirumalai. There are 45 verses that describe the glory of the Lord and Nama Sankirtanam. It is called as Tirumalai. Next, after Thondaradi Podi Alvar comes Tiruppan Alvar. Tiruppan Alvar was the Alvar who belonged to a small city called as Urayur, the erstwhile capital of the Cholas. So he is said to have composed a beautiful work called as Amalanadi Piran, where he describes the reclining Lord of Srirangam head to toe. So that is called Amalanadi Piran. Then comes Tirumangai Alvar, a very towering Alvar, a towering personality. He gave us 6 works. Nammalvar gave us 4 works akin to the 4 Vedās. Tirumangai Alvar gave us 6 works which are akin to the 6 Vedangas, Siksha, Jyotisham, Kalpam, Vyakaranam and so on. So we have 6 works. Periya Tirumozhi, Periya Tirumadal, Shiriya Tirumadal, Tiruvelukuttirukkai, Tirunedunthāndagam, Tirukkurunthāndagam. These are the 6 Prabandhams of Tirumangai Alvar. After the times of Tirumangai Alvar, later during the times of Swami Ramanujacharya 1000 years before, was a great devotee called Tiruvarangathamudanar. So this Tiruvarangathamudanar wanted to compose a work on Swami Ramanuja, but Ramanuja denied, stating that I will not accept verses being sung in my glory. So Amudanar intelligently planned to connect each verse with an acharya or god. So he would say Rāmāyanam is such a great work, and that Rāmāyanam is being held in the heart of Ramanuja. So Ramanuja was forced to accept. Those set of 108 verses is called Prapanna Gayatri. That is very, very important for a person who has performed Sharanagati, like for a person who has got the Upanayanam done. Gayatri Mantram is important for a person who has performed Sharanagati. Prapanna Gayatri, which is called as Rāmānuja Nutrandadi, is important. It has got 108 verses. So beginning from Mudal Tiruvandadi, Irandam Tiruvandadi, Moondram Tiruvandadi, Tiruchanda Viruttam, Nanmugan Tiruvandadi, Tiruviruttam, Tiruvasiriyam, Periya Tiruvandadi, Tiruvaimozhi, Kanninun Siruthambu, Perumal Tirumozhi, Periyalvar Tirumozhi, Nachiyar Tirumozhi, Tiruppavai, Tirupalli Ezhuchi, Tirumalai, Amalanadi Piriyan, Periya Tirumozhi, Periya Tirumadal, Siviya Tirumadal, Periya Tirukkurundandagam, Tirunedantandagam, Tiruvalukkutirukkai, Rāmānuja Nutrandadi. All these Prabandhams together comprise 4,000 verses, hence it is called Nal Ayira Divya Prabandham. There are 4,000 verses. So all these verses are so beautiful in nature. There are thousands of people across the world who have by-hearted all the 4,000 verses and keep reciting this in front of the processional deity called as Utsavamurti in a temple. So in these Alvars, each of these Alvars' life history is very interesting. Amongst them, one which is very, very picture worthy, cinema worthy, is Tirumangai Alvar's life. Tirumangai Alvar was actually a chieftain under the Chola king, and he fell in love with a damsel like woman called as Kumudavalli. She said that only if you agree to do the Samashrayanam under an acharya, where you get the Shankha Chakra Lanchanam, in common words tattoo, spiritual tattoo, then only I shall accept you as my husband, and after our marriage you should promise that you will serve 1,000 Bhagavatottamas, 1,000 devotees day after day with food. He agreed. And after he married Kumudavalli, to keep up his word, he started serving the devotees. But money was not enough. So it is said that he started using the money that was meant for administration and started serving people with food. When this was brought to the notice of the king said that I reprimand you, I remove you from the king's post, and you have to pay the money back. So that is when to pay the money back, at the same time to ensure that this Bhagavata Tadiyaradhana continues, he started stealing from the passers-by in the forest. It is said that one day the Lord Sriman Narayana and Sri Mahalakshmi, the mother, wanted to correct him and bring him back to the path of realization and knowledge, and they came in the disguise of a married couple. He went on a ride and on a journey to loot them. He was unable to loot them because he was not able to take the ring and from the foot of that particular bride, and that is when he understands from the groom, and that is when he understands that the person who has come in the form of a groom is none but Sriman Narayana, and Narayana blesses him with mantrartham, and from that day onwards he becomes a man who is conducive to the sampradayam and doesn't engage in robbery. So this particular incident where the Lord comes to correct Tirumangai Alvar and bring him back to the path of righteousness is celebrated as Vedupari Utsavam, which you can see now in a clip. This particular compilation of Nalayara Divya Prabandham has been commented immensely, extremely well by great preceptors from Periyavachan Pillai, Nampillai, Nanjiyar, Bhattar, Swami Vedanta Deshika, Manavala Mamunigal, and so on. So there is a very, very rich literature of the original work in Tamil, Bhakti literature of Vaishnava literature in Tamil, and their respective commentaries in Tamil. Now let us deal with the Shaiva sect of the Tamil tradition. So we had a group of saint poets, like how we had Alvars who were Vaishnavite saints. In the Shaivite sect you had Nayanmars. So there were 63 in number, like how you had Andal as one amongst the ladies who had exquisite position in the Alvars. Here we deal with a lady called Karaikkalammayar of immense devotion. Now the compilation of the hymns sung by the Alvars in the Vaishnavite tradition is called Nalayara Divya Prabandham. The compendium or the collection of the hymns sung by the Nayanmars in the Shaiva tradition is called as Tirumurai, and there are 12 such Tirumurais. The first, second and the third Tirumurai was composed by Sambandar, and it is called as Tirukkadai Kappu. Next comes Appar. So he gave us the fourth, fifth and the sixth Tirumurais, and that compilation is called Thevaram. And then comes Sundarar. Sundarar gave us the seventh Tirumuri, it is called Tiruppattu. Then comes Manikka Vachakar, who is around the 9th century, and he gave us the 8th Tirumurai, which is a compilation of Tiruvasakam and Tirukkovayar. Next comes the 9th Tirumurai. The 9th Tirumurai has 28 hymns of other saints in the Nayanmar tradition. The 10th Tirumurai is called Tirumandiram by a great Nayanmar called Tirumular, and the 12th one is called Periya Puranam, because there are remaining works which are found in the 11th Tirumurai. The 12th work is Periya Puranam, that talks about the life history of the saints who have composed the 11th Tirumurai. So it is written by Shekilar. So he is said to have belonged to the 12th century. Now, two incidents that I would like to mention from Tirumurai. Tirumurai is a very, very rich Shaivite literature on Lord Shiva. There is said to have been a devout couple in a small village called as Sirgali or Thonipuram, and they belong to the lineage of Kaundinya. So they belong to Kaundinya Gotram, and they were blessed with a son, and this son looked as beautiful, as handsome as Lord Kartikeya himself. So his name was called Sambandhar, and while the father took his little son Sambandhar to the nearby temple to take bath, he recited Agamarshana Suktam and went into the waters. The little boy of 4 years, Sambandhar, was unable to spot his father, and he started crying, "Hey mother, oh my dear father, please come in front of me. Mata, Pita, Amma, Appa," he started crying, this little boy. At that point in time, Goddess Parvati along with Lord Shiva appeared in Rishabhavahana on Nandikeshwara, and she is said to have fed this little crying boy with milk. As soon as the couple, Lord Shiva and Parvati, left, the father, who came from the waters after taking bath, saw some stains of milk on his face and asked, "Whose milk did you drink?" That time this boy, who had obtained the grace of Parvati and Shiva, starts singing the glory of Shiva by this verse: "Todudaya seviyan vidayeriyor tuven madisudi, காடுடைய சுடலைப்பொடி பூசி என் உள்ளங்கவர் கள்வன், ஏடுடைய மலரான் முனைநாள் பணிந்தேத்த அருள் செய்த, வீடுடைய பிரமாபுரம் மேவிய பெம்மான் இவனன்னே." So, this is the beginning of Thevaram. Now, how did we obtain these verses which were sung by different people at different points in time? It is said that during the reign of the great king, greatest of the Chola kings called Rajaraja Chola I, it is said that these verses, some of them were spotted by poets in and around that region. The king, in order to understand the verses better, wanted to know where these verses were. They said that these verses could be found in manuscripts in a locked chamber of the Chidambaram Natarajaswamy temple. The king said that I will go, but there was a condition. The Dikshitars who were responsible for or custodians of the temple said only if the three saints, principal saints, Sammandar, Appar and Sundarar, who had sung most of these Tirumurais, if they had appeared in person, will they open the chamber filled with manuscripts. There, those saints' time was over, time period was over, but Rajaraja made a very intelligent deal. He made beautiful statues, vigrahams, out of these three saints and brought them into the temple and said, see, if you believe that these idols have no life, then you should not go to any temple, because there the god's idol also will not have life. If you believe these have life, then you open the chamber for me. So they opened, and with the help of Nambiyandar Nambi, a great person who compiled these verses, some of which were taken away by the termites, the remaining verses were brought and compiled into Tirumurais. So, be it Nalayira Divya Prabandham of the 12 Alvars in the Tamil Vaishnava tradition, or the Panniru Tirumurais, the 12 Tirumurais of the Nayanmars in the Shaiva Tamil tradition, they are very rich. Now, let us go to another poet. Now, this incident of Rajaraja Chola coming into the temple, Chidambaram temple, has been beautifully depicted in a movie called Rajaraja Chola, where the lead protagonist's role was played by a very great dramatist and an actor of all times called as Sri Shivaji Ganeshan. So he enacts this role. Coming to another literature in the Tamil tradition, which is very beautiful, called as Kamba Ramayanam. Kamba Ramayanam is said to have belonged to the 10th, 11th and the 12th centuries. We exactly cannot ascertain when this poet Kamban lived. This poet Kamban had great respects for Valmiki, who gave us the Sānskrit, the Rāmāyanam in Samskrita Bhasha. So he expresses his devotion to Valmiki. He says, Vangarum Padam Nangum Vagutta Vanmigi Enban. So Valmiki in ancient Tamil was called Vanmigi. Vanmigi Enban, Theme Kavi Sevigallartha Tevarum Parugacheidan, Angavan Pugalnda Nattai Anbu Enum Naravam Mandi, Mungayan Pesalutran, Yennanan Muriyaluttrain. At the commencement of his work, one of the largest, the oldest transcreations of Ramayana in an Indian regional language is Kamba Ramayanam. Even much before the Malayalam, Telugu, Kannada, Hindi, Awadhi, Gujarati, Odia, Bengali Ramayanas could come into our country. One of the earliest, the first regional language based Ramayanas, Kamba Ramayanam. There he expresses his salutations and obeisances to that Paramatma Sriman Narayana, who is responsible for the creation, sustenance and dissolution of this universe. He says, Ulagam Yavayum Tamula Akkalum Nilai Peruttalum Nikkalum Ningala Alagila Vilayatudayaravar Talaivar Annavarke Sharannangale. At a later place in the Balakandam, when Rama has to shoot his maiden arrow at someone, it happened to be Tataka, a woman. So his bow, the arrow from his bow had to go at such a speed where it would go and pierce the diamond chested Tataka. So what does he say? Solluvakkum kadiyavega chudusaram. Like how the words emanate from a person's mouth. See, at times we end up saying words or things to another person which we should have never said. But why do we say that? Because even before our thought process can come into picture, the words will go at that speed. Solluvakkum kadiyavega chudusaram. Likewise, the arrow from Rama's bow, Kodanda, went that swiftly to strike at the diamond chested Tataka. Solluvakkum kadiyavega chudusaram kariya semmal. How is he? Dark hued. Alluvakkum nirattinal mel vidudalum. She is also dark hued. அது வைரக்குன்றின் கல்லுவக்கும் நெஞ்சிர் தங்காது. It did not stay in the diamond chested body of Tataka. கல்லுவக்கும் நெஞ்சிர் தங்காது. From the other side of Tataka's body, it went further. கல்லா புல்லர்க்கு நல்லோர் சொன்ன பொருள் என போயித்தன்றே. To a person with bad qualities, if a person with good qualities will call him an advice, mend your ways, you should not steal, you should not speak the untruth, you should be very respectful to elders. If you tell this to a person who has vowed to be disrespectful, at what speed he will take this advice in this year and leave it out in that year? It went at that speed, it seems. Kalla pullarku nallor sonna porul ena poyitandre. There is another verse that brings about the beauty of the Tamil language, and Kamba Ramayanam covers Tamil. இவ்வண்ணம் நிகழ்ந்த வண்ணம் இனியிந்த உலகுக்கெல்லாம் உய்வண்ணம் அன்றிமற்றோர் துயர்வண்ணம் உருவதுண்டோ மைவண்ணத்து அரக்கி போரில் மழைவண்ணத்து அண்ணலே உன் கைவண்ணம் அங்கு கண்டேன் கால்வண்ணம் இங்கு கண்டேன். Like when Vishwamitra was walking into the dense forest after Tataka vadham, after Subahu vadham, after Maricha was driven away, after Ahalyodharanam, after giving emancipation to the penance performing Ahalya, it seems Vishwamitra would keep looking at Rama and he says, Kaivannam angu kandeen, Kalvannam ingu kandeen. Kandeen in Tamil means seeing. But you use the word kandeen in Tamil only if you do that with surprise. See, for example, somebody keeps a glass of coffee for me, a mug of coffee. I should say, coffee vaittargal, they placed coffee for me. Parthen. Parthen means I saw. You should not use the word kandeen. If you say coffee vaittargal kandeen means I have not consumed coffee for the last 1 year. So when they keep coffee for me, it comes with an element of surprise. So kandeen is used only when you are surprised. So Vishwamitra says, Kaivannam angu kandeen. Hey Rama, I saw the glory of your hands there. I saw the glory of your feet here. Kalvannam ingu kandeen. Why does he use the word, and why should he see that with an element of surprise? Generally in this world, be it the man or the woman, if you want to rebuke someone, punish someone, you may say, come near me, I will kick you. So for punishing, I will use my legs. Suppose a child or somebody in our family is very respectful, very talented, the child has done a beautiful painting, what will you say? Come here, I will give you a hug. So to give an embrace, you always use hands. To punish, you will use foot. But what did Rama do? Those hands which are meant to embrace and be an act of solace, he killed Tataka. He punished Tataka. And those legs which are meant to punish, with that he gave emancipation to Ahalya. He embraced her and he showered his grace on her. So Rama's acts of killing Subahu Maricha, Tataka, and giving emancipation to Ahalya was contrary to the world's way of acting. So he was surprised. So Kamban says, Kaivannam angu kandeen, Kalvannam ingu kandeen. You must understand how our Indian languages are connected. In Sanskrita Bhasha, Padam means feet. Padam also means quarter, 1/4 of any whole object is called Padam. In the Tamil language, Kal means feet. Kal also means quarter. So in Sanskritam, Padam means quarter and feet. In Tamil, Kal means quarter and feet. So one word denoting the same meaning, two meanings is found in Tamil language and in the Sanskritam language. So what did he say? Kal vannam ingu kandeen. I saw the glory of your feet. What is the other meaning for Kal? Quarter. How do we understand this? In the entire Rāmāyana sequence, Rama is born, he grows up, he is married and he lives in Ayodhya for 12 long years. So till this period, Vishwamitra was along with Rama and he was able to enjoy the pastimes of Rama. After Rama has been asked to go to the forest and then he loses Sita, he constructs Setu and then gets back, all this remaining portion Vishwamitra is not found. So Vishwamitra now laments, see, I am able to appreciate and enjoy only 1/4 of your life history, Rama. I am not able to enjoy the 3/4 of it. Kalvannam ingu kandeen. I am able to enjoy only 1/4 of it. So this is the other meaning. And when Valmiki describes Ramayana, he doesn't mention of Sita and Rama having seen each other before the marriage. It does happen in Valmiki Ramayanam that there is a dhanus, there is a bow which is kept. It is an utsavam for the bow. And Vishwamitra says, please show this bow to Rama. And Rama goes and lifts the bow and at the end of it, he breaks the bow and both of them marry each other. Correct. Whereas in Kamba Ramayanam, there is an instance where Rama, upon entering Mithila, goes by the Mithila cross street, sees Sita playing with her friends in the gazebo. He looks at her, she too looks at him. It is an accident that happens that both of them look at each other and they fall in love with each other just by that very looks. So, first sight, first love, we say, right? So, here is a verse. எண்ணலும் நலத்தினாள் இணையள் நின்றொழி கண்ணொடு கண்ணினை கவ்வி ஒன்றை ஒன்று உண்ணவும் நிலைப்பெறாது உணர்வும் ஒன்றிட அண்ணரும் நோக்கினான் avarum nokinal. Both of them looked at each other. Says this particular Kamba Ramayanam verse. On the screen you will be able to see the mantapam, that beautiful architectural mantapam called as Kambar Mantapam. So around 800-900 years before, when Tamil Ramayanam came into picture, Kambar, the author, is said to have presented to the Vidwans and the Vidushis of Srirangam first. So in the beautiful hamlet town of Srirangam, you will find this Mantapam within the precincts of Ranganatha Swami temple.